Did you know that the real story behind Van Helsing and Dracula is far darker and more fascinating than the tales you've heard? Beneath the layers of fiction lies a sinister history of real-life inspirations, shadowy figures, gruesome folklore, and shocking truths about the human thirst for immortality. What if I told you that the legend of Dracula isn't just a story, but a chilling mirror of historical horrors? And Van Helsing? His origins are rooted in real scientific obsessions that once blurred the line between life and death. This is the real story of Van Helsing and Dracula, a tale steeped in blood, mystery, and the relentless battle between darkness and light. To unravel the truth behind these iconic characters, we must step back into a time when superstition ruled over reason and fear of the unknown consumed entire civilizations. The 19th century was an era of discovery, yet it was equally an age of deep terror, when the dead didn't always stay dead, and whispers of strange creatures haunted the European countryside. Bram Stoker's Dracula may have brought these legends into popular culture, but the roots of the story stretch far deeper. They connect to real-life inspirations that are both shocking and disturbingly relatable. Let's start with Dracula, because the truth behind this infamous vampire is enough to chill your blood. The dark origins of Dracula. Dracula, the vampiric count who lives off the lifeblood of the innocent, wasn't merely a figment of Bram Stoker's imagination. His origins were inspired by the brutal life of Vlad III, Prince of Wallachia, better known as Vlad the Impaler. Born in the 15th century, Vlad was a man whose cruelty became legend. He earned his gruesome title due to his preferred method of execution, impalement. Victims were skewered on sharp stakes, left to die in agony, their bodies displayed as grim warnings to his enemies. Historical accounts tell of forests of the impaled, thousands of bodies arranged in terrifying displays of power. But Vlad's story doesn't end there. He was a member of the Order of the Dragon, a secretive Christian knightly order sworn to defend against the Ottoman Empire. His title, Dracula, derives from this order, meaning son of the dragon. However, to the people of Wallachia, that name soon became synonymous with something far more sinister, a devil-like figure who fought fire with fire. And here's where it gets even creepier. Folklore from the region tells of Vlad's almost supernatural ability to evade death. Legends claim he made pacts with dark forces to secure his victories. After his death, his body mysteriously disappeared from his burial site, fueling centuries of speculation. Was Dracula truly defeated, or did something darker take his place? The evolution of vampires in folklore. Dracula's character wasn't just inspired by Vlad the Impaler. Stoker drew upon centuries of vampire folklore, particularly from Eastern Europe. In these tales, vampires were not the charismatic figures we see in modern films. They were grotesque, rotting corpses, rising from their graves to feast on the living. One particularly chilling practice involved staking suspected vampires, an act meant to pin their bodies to the ground. In some regions, corpses were decapitated, their heads burned to ensure they wouldn't rise again. These weren't just wild superstitions. Archaeological discoveries have uncovered graves where bodies were mutilated in exactly these ways, showing the terror of vampirism was very real to these communities. But here's a terrifying twist. Many of the supposed vampires weren't undead at all. Some were people buried alive by mistake, their desperate attempts to escape mistaken for supernatural activity. Imagine the horror of hearing claw marks on the inside of a coffin, a grim reminder of the thin line between life and death in those days. The science behind Van Helsing. Now let's turn our attention to Van Helsing, the stoic vampire hunter and Dracula's eternal adversary. While he appears as a fictional character, his roots are firmly planted in real-world science and obsession. In Stoker's Dracula, Van Helsing is a polymath, a doctor, philosopher, and scientist. He embodies the Victorian era's fascination with the boundaries of life, death, and the human soul. But the real-life inspirations for Van Helsing are even more fascinating. One possible influence is Abraham van der Velden, a 19th-century Dutch doctor who explored the cutting-edge sciences of his time, including transfusion techniques and infectious diseases. However, the most compelling connection is to a dark obsession sweeping Europe in the 1800s, resurrection science. In the Victorian era, scientists became fixated on reviving the dead. Experiments with electricity, known as galvanism, aimed to spark life back into corpses, inspired by the same science that influenced Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Some doctors went further, using rudimentary defibrillation techniques and even blood transfusions to test the limits of mortality. These experiments weren't always sanctioned. In some cases, they involved grave robbing, stolen cadavers, and secret laboratories. The ethical lines blurred, creating an atmosphere ripe for someone like Van Helsing, a figure who combines cutting-edge science with a relentless drive to battle the supernatural. The clash between darkness and light. The deeper truth behind Van Helsing and Dracula is not just their personal rivalry, but what they symbolize. Dracula represents humanity's darkest fears, the corruption of the soul, the thirst for immortality, and the seduction of evil. Meanwhile, Van Helsing stands as the unyielding force of reason and morality, battling the darkness with the tools of science and faith. This eternal clash reflects the anxieties of the time. The Victorian era was one of profound change. Industrial progress brought new wonders, but also new fears, disease, overpopulation, and the loss of traditional beliefs. Vampires became the ultimate metaphor for those fears, while figures like Van Helsing embodied the hope that science and reason could conquer them. But here's the most fascinating part. Both Dracula and Van Helsing are ultimately flawed. Dracula's immortality is a curse that isolates him from humanity, while Van Helsing's unwavering faith in his mission blinds him to the cost of his actions. Their battle is not just good versus evil, it's a struggle that questions what it means to be human. Shocking realities and lasting legacy. Did you know that Stoker's Dracula wasn't initially a success? When it was published in 1897, it received modest attention. Yet over time, it became a cultural phenomenon, inspiring countless adaptations, from chilling films to modern reinterpretations. But here's something few people realize: Bram Stoker died penniless, never witnessing the legacy of his creation. And here's the final twist: Stoker's personal notes reveal he originally wanted to title the novel The Undead. It was only late in the writing process that he stumbled upon the name Dracula while researching Vlad the Impaler. That single choice transformed the story from a gothic horror to an enduring legend. So, what can we learn from the real story of Van Helsing and Dracula? They are more than characters in a book. They are symbols of humanity's eternal struggle with its darkest fears and its highest aspirations. Dracula reminds us of the dangers of unchecked power and the cost of immortality, while Van Helsing shows us the courage to confront the unknown, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Their story is a reflection of our own, a battle between the light and darkness within us all. And perhaps that's why their legend continues to captivate us. Because in the end, we are all searching for the strength to face our own demons, and to rise victorious. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Stay tuned. Until next time.